It was a quiet evening in the city. The neon glow of streetlights reflected off the rain-slick pavement as a man walked alone down the sidewalk, his hands tucked into the pockets of his jacket. His name was Marcus Carter, a seasoned SWAT officer. Though to anyone passing by, he looked like an ordinary guy heading home after a long day. Dressed in a plain hoodie and jeans, he blended in effortlessly with the crowd, just another face in the city. But Marcus was far from ordinary. He had spent years training in high-risk operations, mastering combat tactics, and handling some of the most dangerous criminals in the city. He had been in life-or-death situations more times than he could count, but nothing could have prepared him for what was about to unfold. As he walked past a dimly lit alleyway, laughter and muffled voices caught his attention. At first he ignored it. This was the kind of city where late-night conversations in dark corners weren't unusual, but something in the tone of those voices made him pause. It wasn't friendly. It was sharp, laced with cruelty. His instincts kicked in. A few steps ahead, standing near a convenience store, a group of young men lingered, their postures tense and aggressive. Marcus recognized the type immediately. Troublemakers who thrived on intimidation. He could feel their eyes on him as he walked past, their gazes dripping with the kind of arrogance that came from never having been truly tested. "Hey, where you think you're going?" one of them called out, stepping into Marcus's path. He was tall, wiry, his stance meant to be imposing. The others chuckled behind him, forming a loose semicircle around Marcus. He stopped, his expression calm but unreadable. Marcus had seen this before. A gang looking for an easy target. They had no idea they had just picked the worst possible person to mess with. Another one, a stocky guy with a shaved head, sneered. "You must be lost walking around here at this hour." His voice carried an unmistakable edge, the kind that signaled he was used to people backing down. Marcus didn't flinch. He had faced heavily armed criminals, survived shootouts, and endured some of the toughest training imaginable. A group of street punks didn't scare him, but he also knew better than to escalate a situation that could be avoided. "I'm just passing through," he said evenly, his voice calm. He had no interest in starting a fight, but he wasn't going to let anyone intimidate him either. The leader of the group, a man with a scar running down his cheek, stepped closer. His eyes held a glint of malice, like he enjoyed moments like this. "Passing through," he mocked. "Nah, see, people like you don't belong around here." Marcus knew exactly what he meant. He had seen this kind of hatred before, the kind that hid behind sneers and laughter, but had the potential to turn ugly in an instant. He exhaled slowly, resisting the urge to shake his head. These guys had no idea who they were dealing with. One of them shoved him. Not hard, just testing him. Marcus stayed rooted, his stance unwavering. The leader smirked, mistaking his composure for weakness. "What's the matter? Cat got your tongue?" The air grew thick with tension. Marcus could tell they were waiting for him to react, to give them an excuse to take it further. His mind worked quickly, analyzing every possible move, every escape route. He could end this in seconds if he wanted to. But that wasn't the goal. He met the leader's gaze, his voice steady. "You don't want to do this." The gang laughed, mistaking his words for fear. "Oh, we do," the leader said, cracking his knuckles. Marcus took a slow breath. He had tried to walk away. He had given them a warning. But now, it seemed, they were about to learn exactly how bad of a mistake they had made. Marcus remained, still his sharp eyes scanning each face in front of him. He could see it clearly now. These men weren't just looking for trouble. They were used to getting their way, used to people folding under pressure, but they didn't know him. They didn't know that he had been trained to handle high-stress situations, that every muscle in his body had been conditioned to react in a split second. He could feel the tension in the air, the shift in their body language as they circled. Him, waiting for him to make a wrong move. The leader smirked, taking another step closer. "What's the matter, cat got your tongue?" His tone was mocking, his confidence unshaken. He thought Marcus was just another guy who had wandered into the wrong place at the wrong time. Marcus had encountered people like this before. They relied on intimidation, feeding off fear. But there was no fear in him, only patience. He knew that the moment he reacted, things would spiral fast. So he gave them one last chance. "Walk away," he said, his voice low but firm. The leader chuckled, shaking his head. "Nah, see, I don't think you understand. We decide who walks away." The others laughed, their confidence growing. One of them stepped up, his hand twitching as if he was daring Marcus to make a move. Another shifted his weight, muscles tensed. They were ready, or at least they thought they were. Marcus remained. Come. Years in law enforcement had taught him to read people. These weren't hardened criminals. They were street-level punks, used to easy fights and scared victims. But that didn't mean they weren't dangerous. Desperation and ego were a bad mix, and Marcus had seen situations turn deadly in the blink of an eye. He could feel the adrenaline. In his veins, the slow, steady heartbeat of someone who had been in far worse situations and walked out unscathed. But he also knew he couldn't just take them down. That would bring its own set of problems. Right now, he needed to control the situation without escalating it further. The leader must have mistaken his silence for hesitation. His smirk widened. "Look at him. Quiet now, huh?" He turned to the others, as if putting on a show. "Probably thinking about running." Marcus exhaled slowly. He had no intention of running. But he was also running out of time to defuse this before things got out of hand. Then, out of the corner of his eye, movement. The stocky one shifted forward, his stance slightly off balance. Marcus knew what was coming before it even happened. Shove, quick, aggressive, meant to provoke. Marcus barely moved. The leader's smile faltered for just a second. He had expected Marcus to stumble, to show some kind of fear. Instead, Marcus stood there, unmoved, his gaze locked on the man in front of him. The laughter around them grew uneasy. They had expected an easy target, someone who would cower or plead. Instead, they had someone who wasn't reacting the way they wanted. Marcus spoke again, his voice as calm as ever. "I told you to walk away." Something in the way he said, it sent a flicker of doubt through the group. The leader hesitated, as if some instinct buried deep inside him was starting to scream that something wasn't right. But he couldn't back down now. His pride wouldn't let him. The man clenched his jaw, his fists tightening. "You got a smart mouth," he muttered. Marcus tilted his head slightly. He could see the frustration growing. They had expected a scared reaction, not this quiet, unshaken confidence. That was making them nervous. One of the younger ones in the group shifted uncomfortably. "Man, maybe we should just let him go," he muttered under his breath. The leader shot him a glare. "What, you scared?" Marcus caught that. A crack in their unity. It wasn't much, but it was something. If he could keep them unsure, keep that doubt growing, he could end this without it turning into something worse. He took a slow step back, giving them just enough space to back down without losing face. But he didn't lower his guard. His muscles remained loose, ready, waiting. Then, just as it seemed like things might cool down, a voice interrupted the tense standoff. "Hey!" A man stood at the entrance of the convenience store, an older guy wearing an apron. He had probably seen the whole thing from inside. His eyes flicked between Marcus and the group, his face set with irritation. "I already told you punks not to hang around here. Get lost." The leader turned, annoyance flashing across his face. "Mind your business, old man." The store owner crossed his arms. "My store, my business. You got 5 seconds to leave before I call the cops." Marcus remained silent, watching the shift in dynamics. The gang was confident when they had the upper hand, but now, with another person involved, there was hesitation. The leader clicked his tongue, clearly frustrated. He turned back to Marcus, his expression dark. "This ain't over." Then, just like that, he signaled to the others, and one by one they backed away. Marcus didn't move, didn't say a word as he watched them disappear into the night. He waited until they were out of sight before he let out a slow breath. The store owner walked closer, eyeing Marcus. "You all right?" Marcus nodded. "Yeah." The man studied him for a moment. "You didn't seem too worried." Marcus glanced, back at where the gang had disappeared. "I wasn't." The store owner huffed, shaking his head. "You got lucky. Those guys are bad news." Marcus gave a small, knowing smile. So am I. He didn't say anything else. He simply turned and walked away, blending back into the city, leaving the store owner watching after him with a puzzled expression. Because Marcus knew something those men didn't. This wasn't over, and next time, they wouldn't be the ones deciding how it ended.